Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Founders Grid, sponsored by Gaper.io. Today we have Sara Kristin, the founder of Hello, Sara Kristin. Welcome to the show, Sara.
Hello, Zoon. I'm so grateful to be here. Just an honor to be on this podcast. I'm really excited. Thank you for having me.
Okay, Sara, how about we start with a brief background of yourself and your work experience?
Oh, great. Absolutely. So I run a global consulting company, and that focuses on experience design, really elevating people's experiences. So as we all know, every company, every brand has a customer experience. They have, a client experience, and where they are on that journey varies, right? Like some of the different levers and pulleys and buttons that are getting pushed are actually very unique to every company. And so I've determined in the last 20 years, there is not a one size fit all. And with my experience, that's where I come in to say, okay, how do we understand what is currently going on with your customers and your clients? What's their temperature check? Like, how are they feeling about you? How are they responding to your products and services? How are they responding to your customer support? And then I look at one of the most important things that I found that in my past, we would look at the customer experience and we would address that, but missing the whole internal experiences with employees and operations and, oh my gosh, the tools and the processes and the products and services and how the user experience works internally. And what I've learned over 20 some years is that customers and clients feel if there's a disconnect internally. They feel if it's smooth, if it's working amazing, like they just want more of your company and brand. And so what I do is I come in and I look at both sides and put them together and make sure very quickly that we can take action. Like, what are the top priorities? What are those aha moments for your clients or customers or even your employees that are going to get them energized and moving in momentum? And essentially, as this kind of one of my superpowers is like this moderator or mediator between the two. And I'm really passionate about that because I feel like the whole experience is not just customer experience. It's all those wonderful X's and O's and all of that stuff that comes together, right, in a seamless way. But that's really, really challenging to do. And especially in the new paradigm, companies and brands are really having to pivot very quickly. And so based on my experience working in agencies for a long time and then working on client side, I have this sense of understanding of like how the inner workings work between partnerships and internally and then externally. And I love talking to people and getting to know them. And so it's just one of those great joys that I wake up every day and I'm like, this is my job. So that's what I get to do that now all across the world. So, and helping any kind of brand.
You know what? I'm going to be stealing your word, the aha moment. Like, I totally love that. Like, it's such a cute word.
Thank you, Zoon. I got to tell you, like when I talk to clients and customers, I'm always like looking for that. And I even will say that to them, like, look, what would be that like aha, like surprise for you? And I get the craziest, awesome things. And I think there's surveys are amazing. And I do a lot of them and I work with a lot of really amazing companies that help to support that. But where I come in is to create that one-on-one. There's nothing like talking to people and like discovering that like magic, that aha moment.
Lovely. Okay, Sara, so what has been your experience with remote employment? Like both as doing the work remotely yourself as well as employing remote workers?
Great question, Zoon. I really love that because I think before the pandemic, I don't know how you guys have experienced this, but as a remote worker for 11 years at that point, it was really challenging because there was I felt like I really had to show up in so many ways. And, you have to fly, you've got to get in person. There was all this like kind of stigma around what if we can't see you, then you're not really doing the work, or, what are we paying you for and all of that. And so it was a lot that actually fed into like the experience that I designed for my own clients and customers and making sure that they know that I'm not hanging out all the time, like just, chilling over here. It is like really, actually a very significant shift that I made very decisively 11 years ago, because I find that I work so much better when I can just focus, and being wherever I can, I also feel very free. Now, the pandemic, I would say remote workers, we're all remote workers like that. Like, I mean, it's global workers now, because I feel like when, within a 24-hour period on March 23rd, everybody became a remote worker. And I discovered then that people were calling me. I don't know if this happened to you, Zoon. I was getting calls left and right, like, how do I do this? Where do I do? And I got to tell you, making that transition from, getting up every day, going somewhere, working with teams all the time, like, making that transition 11 years ago was really tough to be able to find my balance. But it became a superpower. And now when everybody had to gotta go remote, I feel like it's the way to go. And the best part for me was this video. Before, people were not getting on video. They didn't want to see their faces. Like, they just wanted to be on the phone. And now I feel very connected, as and I hire remote workers. Like, I've been doing that for, oh my gosh, over 2 decades. When I worked with agencies or worked on a client side, I've always been a lot more looking for the right person and the right team. And it didn't really matter to me where they were located. And, whether that came like Gapier.io, like when it comes to engineers, or when it comes to getting that great developer team, or that, I've worked globally with some of the most amazing people, and I would have missed out on that had I like kind of figured like, oh, like I'd rather have somebody who's like live and local. And gosh, like the experiences just skyrocketed from there.
Well, I myself am like a remote worker, and Gaper, you and Gaper, like us, we have something in similar. We both like Gaper started off as a remote company as well. Like, we have been remote since day one, like before the pandemic. And I gotta say,
Oh
it's
my gosh.
lovely. Like, I prefer remote work over like the office going thing. Like, I absolutely love it.
Right? Like, there's so many, there's so many benefits. I know a lot of people last year like had to take a drink from a fire hydrant and start doing what we were doing. And I feel like now more than ever, companies like Gaper, where expertise, where people have been working remote, like is really powerful. Because for me, I didn't have all those news last year. So I was able to pivot very quickly and start supporting, my clients immediately, and get new clients going. How can I help you? Like, even if it's just for a week or for a couple hours or for 3 weeks, like, let me just support, because I have extra brain cells. Like, I'm not dealing with what's it like to like be in my home with a partner, with a relationship, with kids, and navigating noises and, all of those new things. And it was just an honor to be able to say like, okay, how can I be of service here? And even as things start to open back up, I think one of the silver linings of the last year is to really see like, we don't actually have to be together to get magical work done. Like, we don't
Exactly.
actually,
Yes.
right? Like, right. Like, I feel like that's such a gift, because
It
I
is.
have
Yes.
met, like, I'm meeting you right now. Like, I have met some of the most amazing people in the last year from every country. I mean, everyone got really open and wanting to like connect, and then all of a sudden it's like, well, we can connect anywhere. You just have to
Exactly.
pick up,
It
you can just,
eliminates the whole
message somebody on
geographical
LinkedIn.
problem. Yeah. And it's
Yes.
amazing. It's absolutely amazing how you can talk to and work with another person who's on the other side of the globe. And it's perfectly magical and amazing. Yeah.
Yes. And I got to tell you, like, it feels like for me, that alternative time schedule kind of gets playful and fun. And at certain times, because you can make your own, sometimes I have to get up really early. Sometimes I have to stay up really late because the calls, where am I taking it? What's the time zone? But, as part of that is part of that dance. And I feel like remote workers, that word to me is so funny now, because I feel like, I don't know, Zoom, if you feel this way, because it just feels like we're all global workers. Like, any of us could be working with somebody like halfway around the world, and it doesn't like it wouldn't matter anymore. Like, we're not thinking, oh, I don't know what they're doing, or it's like, we're all in the position of being here in our homes for the last year.
I get it.
It got really personal. So
I totally get that. Okay, so what do you think is the future of remote employment? And what do you think needs to be done differently to make it more effective and even better than it already is, of course?
Oh my gosh, that's such a great question. I think, I don't know, but I mean, at this point, I feel like none of us can read the crystal ball very far. So I feel like this, it's like, what's 2022 going to be like? And so, but I think currently, I think that, you know, running a company and running and working with companies of varying sizes, as you guys know very closely, is to really encourage them to not lose the magic of what we did discover last year. What we have discovered. It's like some people actually thrive. I'm one of those people, Zune, I know you're one of those people, like we thrive working remotely. And then there's the flexibility and we can get more work done. I'm highly more productive in my hours. Like, and then there are those people that need, want to be and thrive more locally, or they need, get out and get into a place and those kind of things. And I think for remote work, it's really blending that and allowing people to really take their power back of their time. Because I think in the past, it's like, you take a job and it's like the money lasts for like 2 weeks and then it's like, okay, what's my passion? Why am I doing this? Like, what's the reason why? And it needs to be bigger than, I'm just showing up every day. Because now, like, as we know in the last few years, like more companies have been started than ever before because people have felt like, wow, wait, maybe I can do this now. I can really work anywhere. The nomadic lifestyle and that remote lifestyle is actually viable. And so I think as we move forward, it's really important to incorporate that into the culture, incorporate that. It's kind of like what I was saying about businesses not being one size fits all for an experience.
Yeah.
Well, when you take that down at the level, one size doesn't fit all for any person. And so I know that is one of the big challenges now is like, how do you go from one to one-to-many? Well, you start giving those options and those, almost giving trust into your employees and trust into your partners as well. Because I think partnering with companies that remote work, like especially companies like yourself that have been doing it for a while, like you guys, have your finger on the pulse, like, how to hire, where not to, when it doesn't work. And I think that companies looking like partnerships are going to be really, really important. And cross-partnering, banks may partner with shoe companies and, things like that, because everybody's, really blendy. And I think, like in remote work, like your last best experience with a remote worker may have been, not, maybe it wasn't great, or maybe it was. Like, that's where people kind of go with like, okay, how do I move forward with remote working in an environment that used to be very in person? I mean, I have known so many clients that have let go of their buildings because they're like, well, and like travel isn't necessary, how much expenses have been paid. Not that in person, oh my gosh, I love in person. I mean, I love people, but at the same time, it's like strategically really thinking about things very wisely. And I think remote work is here to stay. I believe so. What do you think, Soon?
Oh, well, I think the same. I think the same. I think like before it was when the pandemic started, basically people looked at it as a nightmare. Like they looked at remote work as a nightmare. They didn't know what to do. But slowly and gradually, I think everyone's falling in love with the whole idea of remote work. So yeah, I think it's here to stay. And if not completely remote, I think they're gonna have like 1 or 2 days a week in the office, and the rest they're going to be working remotely. That's what I think.
I think you're right. Like hopefully it's a more of a sweeter relationship between all of us in remote work than it was, like you
Yeah.
said. I think last year it was like that. Oh my God, everybody's got like the annoying neighbor or something that they were just like, I don't want to be in this relationship. I want to get out of this. Like, and I think with remote working, like having to have had to do it, I think now it's really interesting because, like I feel very connected when people talk to me and they're like, you've been doing this for 11 years. Like we can relate on another level now where they're like, it's like tips and tricks of like I was always telling people in the beginning, just like put the TV on like Nat Geo and just let it run in the background, or like, like just so that there's like some white noise. And that has like, that had made the hugest difference for me, like, cause I can't sit in silence. And so like little things like that, it doesn't, like you were saying earlier, Zoom, it doesn't have to be complicated. Like the biggest things can really shift and be the smallest of things that can actually just, I mean, essentially, like just knowing that, taking that pressure off of everybody, saying, you're not sitting around, watching TV all day, binge watching and in your PJs. And maybe some of us have done that. Like I have at a certain point when I first started, because I was just like, I don't know what to do with myself. And, but within all of this, trauma and all of this, discomfort and this pain that we've kind of all gone through in the last year, I think one of the shining lights is that we can all relate to each other. I mean, we can all relate to all of our clients and customers. Like everybody got to be on the same page. And so I think that is, pretty magical, that we can then take that into the future and not forget, not move on and just say, oh, that's what happened and we survived. But actually, I think the companies that really caught on to that, are going to really thrive. They're going to take off because they're going to find superstars where they never thought they would. And I think that's in the remote working area, where it's also, Zune, it doesn't have to be a lot. I think as we move forward, remote workers, it doesn't have to be like a 6 to 9 month, 2-year gig. Like we're talking the flexibility, like April, where you guys can come in and just quickly start going. Like you already know how to work. There's already, it's like we already know the drill, so we can get right into it, versus having to like onboard so heavily. I'm curious if that's something that you guys have found as well.
No, it's totally relatable. Like it all makes sense. And Sarah, you said you've been working remotely for the past 11 years. That's like more than a decade. I have to ask
Yeah.
this. How did you even decide that? Like, how did that idea get into head? Was it just you woke up one day and you were like, oh, I'm just going to work remotely? What's the story behind that? How did you incorporate the whole idea of
Great question.
remote in your mode of working?
That's a great question. Thanks. I feel like I never even would have said like, I'm going to be a remote worker. That didn't even cross my mind. It was actually, I saw an opportunity to solution seekers. Like I'm like such that solution seeker. So I had worked in agencies for quite a while. And then I thought, oh, I must be missing part of the experience. So I went over to a client side, and then I ended up working at Disney. And as I was at Disney, I realized like I was there for a few years, and it was really like there's a lot of like big tanker boats. Like companies are like big boats to me, and there's a lot of captains trying to crew the boat and move the ship. And what I saw were a lot of partners and a lot of vendors like actually pushing the ship, trying to move it in the right direction. And I thought, you know what, I could be like the kind of the middle person to communicate, because there was missed moments between like what a client was understanding and then like what a partner or an agency or a vendor was understanding. And I started filling those gaps while I was at Disney, and started helping like, oh, let me create these documents, or let me do this infographic, or let's have this conversation. And so what I realized is I could make a bigger difference being outside. Because sometimes like for me, my best thinking gets me here. And so like the inside job is incredibly important, but I need outside thinking. I need outside support to move forward, to evolve. And so I saw that in companies. And so, about 11 years ago, I literally jumped ship and was like, and then, came back helping. And it felt like I could add more of that energy and that enthusiasm. And then also that from a quick time period, from a lot of the responsibilities and the load that gets put on leaders is quite heavy. And having to move all of those plates, I felt like one of my superpowers is really to help be their super secret sleeper athlete that's behind them, and like helping them support, like, just like, let me, be your second pair of hands or your second pair of eyes, and really seeing that I was making a difference in that way. And that honestly led me into the variety of, oh, I guess I'm working remote now and I can work anywhere. And I started doing that and started just going wherever the problem was, or, looking for solutions. for them. So that was kind of the challenge. And then since then, I guess I didn't even think about it, Zune, until last year when people started calling me and they were like, how do I do this? Oh my gosh. And I'm like, oh, wow. And I had even done like a LinkedIn like slideshow where I was like, here are my top 10 pro tips. Like, you know, it was like one of those where I was like, how can I help? Because I remember taking that leap. And I don't know if I know you've been in that position as well. Like, I remember taking that leap. It was very scary. But I felt like, you know what? I feel that I can be, like I said, a better service and do more good from with a place that I could be as a remote worker. And so I just was like, put on my big courage pants and move forward, because I was like, okay, here we go. And, you know, time management, I had to like look at myself and start analyzing, okay, how do I assess my time? And now I have a calendar that, I mean, I told this to people last year. I was like, put in your start and end date. It may not, they may move, but you know, I think at this certain point, you want to put in, like, you want to find like, what are your creative hours? I call them my power hours. And, you know, and then I started doing that, and I've gotten these like rhythms now with these containers that it feels more manageable.
Well, another word added to the list, your power hour, stealing that as well. Also, did I hear
Oh my
you
God, take
mention
it.
Disney? Did I hear that, or did I
Yes.
imagine that? Okay, we're totally gonna
No,
talk about that after the podcast. That caught my
it
attention.
was such an incredible experience. Like, honestly, that Disney, like, oh, so much gratitude, and just changed my life. Like, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now if I hadn't seen and been able to experience all those amazing people and all the amazing work we were doing, and seeing all of those gaps and connections that we could be making. And so it's
How
just, yeah,
incredible.
it's been such, I'm so grateful. A lot of really good fortune and paying attention to all of those signs.
Well, sadly, moving towards the last question. So there are companies like Gaper that help develop, build, and scale products, especially for startups. How important do you think such setups are in the startup world and for founders looking to hire smart?
Great question, Zune. I think it's really important. I think it's incredibly critical. I think companies like Gaper are set up to be the extended resources. I think this is going back to partnerships. Like, partner with Gaper, partner with companies that help you move forward, like, you know, and partner with people that are going to be able to see what you can't see and help you, you know, be resources that you can't just expand and grow into. Like, why take on the ownership and the funding and all of that to do it by yourself when they already mastered it? So like, hire the best and partner, you know. And I just feel like it's really critical, especially in the last year, having pivoted for me. Like, I've worked with so many big brands, medium-sized brands, and then last year, like, really kicked into the startup world with I had the 60-minute CXO sessions where I've just been giving executives and leaders, like, and if anybody wants one, I'm like, I'll boost your experience in an hour. I mean, it doesn't take long to determine where do I need to go, like, tomorrow? Like, I mean, right? Because I think now more than ever, especially at startup, the culture is so much more flexible and so much more open than bigger companies. And with bigger companies, like, we're doing the same thing. Like, how do you partner with, you know, people to keep you moving forward? And you know, that's where I come in as well. And it's saying, hey, like, what are those right partners? What are those right next steps? Like, for me, one of the biggest challenges I had being an executive was like, okay, we get out of these amazing meetings and we have all these awesome, you know, strategies, and here's where we're going to go. And then I would just be like, well, what are we doing tomorrow? Like, who's doing what? What's our next step? And how do we get this going? And are we going to have to build out a whole team? Like, how long is that going to take? You know, there's just a lot more questions than there were answers. And so that's where, like, I've been focusing on, okay, what can we do quickly, get some answers to those questions, get the right partners in, and expand. I think that it doesn't have to take a lot. And I think if you're, like you said, Gaper is in a really great situation to partner with any kind of size company now, but with startups particularly, I think it's really critical that you start soon. Like, I know it's very like people want to get going and they want to, kind of go and do the grind, but like learn how to scale, because a lot of times I found in startups and a lot of the conversations, I mean, I've talked to hundreds of people in the last year, and a lot of those conversations were they've gotten to a place where they didn't take those initial steps, and so they're just struggling to like, how do I scale now, or who do I go to? And their culture is slightly more along the path, so it's a little harder to integrate it. And so I think it's a fantastic critical step, to partner, get people to support you so that you feel like you can actually be more creative as a leader, because we need more of that.
Exactly. Those initial steps are very important. Without them, you can't lay down a proper base. Well,
Yes.
Sarah, it was an absolute pleasure having you here today. But sadly, we have to end this podcast, and I'm sad about it, but we have to do it anyways.
Thank you, Zoon. It's been such a pleasure to connect with you.
Same,
This has been a
same.
lot of fun, especially talking about something near and dear to our hearts as remote working. And I'm like, you're pulling on my heartstrings. I love it. And anyone out there, I was like, contact me, contact Zoon. Like, we'll talk all day long about it. I'm like, and give you all of our secrets just so that to help people thrive. It's like, oh, anybody can. It's like, oh, it's such a great time right now to keep moving forward with that momentum.
Exactly. Yes. Well, thank you so much, Sarah. I hope you have a great week ahead.
Thank you, Zoon. You too. Sending good thoughts ahead.
Bye.